She lost her best friend to cancer yesterday and a stranger made her feel guilty for wanting her reserved seat. She just lost her best friend yesterday. And now a stranger on a train is giving her the silent treatment for wanting the seat she paid for. That is where we are starting today. Hold on. Because this story sounds simple on the surface, a reserved seat, a minor inconvenience, a bit of awkwardness on a train that will arrive at its destination regardless. The kind of story you could dismiss in a sentence. But the more you sit with it, the more you realize how much is actually happening beneath the surface. Underneath this whole thing there is grief, guilt, the particular cruelty of small injustices landing on someone who is already at their limit, and a woman who is already carrying more than most people could handle, just trying to find one quiet window to breathe through. Sometimes the smallest conflicts reveal the most about people. Both about the person who starts them and the person who has to absorb them. Let us set the scene properly. Our narrator is on a long train journey. She had a rough start already because her previous train was late, so she had to board one stop later than planned just to make up the time. So before she has even found her seat, she has already been running, already been stressed, already had to adjust and adapt and problem solve just to get herself onto this train at all. She arrives on the platform flustered, probably a little breathless, carrying whatever she is carrying, both in her bags and in her chest, scanning the carriage numbers and checking her ticket and doing that slightly frantic mental arithmetic of someone who is only just holding it together. She is already a little frazzled before she even gets to her seat. And when she finally reaches her reserved spot, a window seat she specifically chose because looking out the window brings her comfort, someone is sitting in it. Not just sitting in the window seat either. This woman has also claimed the second seat next to it for her bag. A whole tote bag or handbag or backpack, just resting there like a ticketed passenger, occupying space that belongs to someone else. So she has essentially spread herself across two seats, neither of which she reserved. Our narrator is polite about it. She does not storm over and demand her seat back. She does not stand in the aisle with her ticket out, pointing at the seat number like a bailiff. She walks up calmly, keeps her voice even, probably even manages a small polite smile, explains that this is actually her reserved seat, and the woman responds by moving her bag so that our narrator can sit in the other seat. The aisle seat. Not her seat. Just the one that was being used as a bag rest. The woman did not offer the window. She did not say sorry about that, here you go. She just cleared the space that was never hers to claim in the first place, and gestured at the remaining option like she was doing our narrator a favor. And our narrator, being the kind of person she clearly is, actually considered just taking it. That is the thing about kind people. They absorb the inconvenience first and ask questions later. Now here is where things start to get a little complicated. Our narrator only reserves window seats. That is her thing, it is the one small travel ritual she has built for herself over time. She loves looking out the window, she puts on her music, and she watches the world go by. It is her way of traveling, her ritual, the thing that makes a long journey feel bearable or even good. The aisle seat is not what she paid for, it is not what she chose, and on a long journey it is not what she wants. So she does the reasonable thing. She asks if they can figure out which stop each of them is getting off at, thinking maybe there is a simple solution, thinking maybe the other woman is only on for a few stops and it will resolve itself naturally without anyone having to feel uncomfortable. Turns out they are both going to the same stop. Same destination, entire journey, neither one gets off early. There is no easy way out. There is no clean, painless resolution. There is no version of this where the problem just dissolves. Someone is going to have to ask, and someone is going to have to move. So our narrator asks, gently and politely, if she can have the window seat back. The seat she reserved. The seat printed on her ticket. And the woman seems upset about it. Not just mildly inconvenienced, not just doing a mild sigh and a shuffle. Visibly upset. Like something genuinely unfair has just happened to her. Our narrator, being considerate and genuinely not wanting to cause a scene or make anyone around them uncomfortable, tells her there is no rush, that everyone can get settled first and they can sort it out once things calm down. She is essentially giving this stranger a cooling-off period. A grace period. A moment to compose herself over being asked to vacate a seat she had no right to be in. That is an incredibly generous offer from someone who is just trying to get her own reserved seat back. And how does the woman respond to that grace? She gives her a look. Just a flat, pointed, loaded look. The kind of look that does not need words because the disdain is already fully formed in it. Like our narrator has asked for something unreasonable. Like she has committed some kind of social offense by wanting to sit in the seat that is literally printed on her ticket. You can picture it clearly, the slight tightening around the eyes, the barely there shake of the head, the jaw that sets just slightly, the way the gaze lingers just a second too long before turning away to stare at nothing. It is the look of someone who has decided they are the injured party in a situation entirely of their own making. And our narrator has to just sit there and receive it, holding herself steady, probably wondering what on earth she has done wrong, probably already starting to feel the first tendrils of that guilt even though there is absolutely nothing to feel guilty about. The entitlement of that moment is something else entirely. Once everyone has settled, the woman turns to our narrator and asks if she still wants to swap. And notice the way that was phrased. Still. As if the hope was that she would just give up and let it go. As if enough time had passed that maybe she had come to her senses and decided the window was not worth the awkwardness. Our narrator, trying to soften it as much as possible, says if you don't mind. She gives the woman every possible off-ramp. She wraps the request in as much cushioning as language allows. And the woman gets up. Slowly. Reluctantly. With the energy of someone performing a great sacrifice, someone who wants every nearby passenger to understand the enormous burden being placed upon them. She moves the approximately 2 feet from one seat to the other as though it is the most put upon she has ever been in her life, settling into the aisle seat with the theatrical heaviness of someone who has just been profoundly wronged. Okay, I am sorry, but if you sat in a reserved seat that was not yours and then reacted like this when the actual ticket holder showed up, that is not a bad day, that is a character flaw. So now they are sitting side by side for the rest of this long journey. And the woman spends that journey throwing weird looks at our narrator. Not saying anything. Not starting a conversation. Not giving our narrator the chance to respond or defend herself or smooth things over. Just giving her that slow, deliberate, passive energy that is specifically designed to make the other person feel like they did something wrong. It is the silent treatment weaponized. It is the performance of injury without any of the actual confrontation, so there is nothing to address and no way to resolve it. And here is the brutal part. It works. Our narrator starts to feel guilty. She starts second-guessing herself. She starts replaying the interaction and wondering if she could have handled it differently, been softer, been more apologetic, maybe just taken the aisle seat and said nothing. She starts wondering if she was wrong to ask for what she paid for. And we have not even talked about the real reason she wanted that window seat yet. Because our narrator mentions it almost as a footnote, like she is embarrassed to bring it up as justification. Like she does not feel she has the right to use her own grief to explain herself to strangers on the internet. She lost a dear friend yesterday. To cancer. Yesterday. Not a week ago, not last month, not in the manageable middle distance of recent loss. Yesterday. She got on this train carrying fresh grief, the rawest kind, the kind where you still reach for your phone to tell them something before you remember, the kind that has not even had time to settle yet, and she wanted a window seat so she could sit quietly, watch the world move past, listen to her music, and just have a moment to herself. A moment where no one needed anything from her and she could just exist inside her sadness without having to manage it or perform around it. That is all she wanted. One small, private comfort in an enormous amount of pain. Think about what that journey must have felt like. The window she finally fought a small, quiet, perfectly reasonable battle to reach, and now she is sitting next to someone who is silently radiating hostility at her, when all she wants is to grieve in peace. When the whole reason she is even on this train might be connected to losing someone. When she reserved that specific seat because somewhere in her she knew she would need it, knew she would need the movement and the light and the distance. And instead of that quiet window moment, instead of the gray landscape sliding past and the headphones in and the rare mercy of being somewhere between places, she is getting sideways glances and guilt from someone who does not know a thing about what she is carrying. The contrast between what she needed and what she got is genuinely heartbreaking. There is also something worth saying about the other woman's behavior here. She did not reserve those seats. That is the foundational fact of this entire situation. She sat in a seat that was not hers and then treated the person who had every right to it like an inconvenience. And the thing is, we do not know why she sat there. Maybe she preferred the window. Maybe she just grabbed whatever looked comfortable and figured she would deal with it if anyone came. But none of that changes the math. She was in the wrong seat. She was asked to move. She moved. That should have been the end of it. The fact that she moved begrudgingly and then spent the rest of the journey making our narrator feel bad is a form of social punishment for something our narrator did absolutely nothing wrong. It is a power move dressed up as hurt feelings. And let us be clear about what our narrator actually did. She was polite. She was patient. She gave the woman time to settle. She softened her request with gentle language. She left exits open at every turn. She did not make it a confrontation. She did not involve the train staff. She did not loudly explain the situation to neighboring passengers. She kept it small and quiet and between the two of them because she did not want to embarrass anyone, including someone who frankly had no problem doing far worse to her. She did everything right. There was not a single moment in this story where our narrator was rude or unreasonable or unkind. She just kept being considerate to someone who was not extending her any of the same courtesy. And she did all of that while actively grieving. That level of grace, especially while carrying that kind of pain, is not something most people could manage. Let us talk about guilt for a moment because this is such a specific and frustrating feeling. The guilt our narrator feels is not evidence that she did something wrong. It is evidence that she is a kind person who is sensitive to other people's emotions, who notices when people are uncomfortable and feels responsible for it even when she is not the cause. There is a particular type of person who understands this dynamic and uses it deliberately. Who knows that if they perform enough displeasure, the kind, empathetic person across from them will eventually start to absorb it as their own fault. The woman made her feel guilty on purpose, whether consciously or not, by performing displeasure loudly and repeatedly throughout the journey. That performance was designed to make our narrator question herself. And it almost worked. The fact that she even had to ask whether she was in the wrong, the fact that she went online and typed out this story and wondered if she had been unreasonable, shows just how effectively that guilt was weaponized against her. Here is the verdict, and it is not complicated. She is not the asshole. Not even slightly. She had a reserved seat, she asked for it back politely, she gave the other person every possible consideration, and she had a deeply personal reason for needing that specific spot. The other woman had no reservation, no right to that seat, and no claim to the window except proximity and audacity. The looks, the reluctance, the passive punishment throughout the journey, none of that reflects badly on our narrator. It reflects badly on someone who could not handle a minor inconvenience with basic decency. You deserved that window seat. You deserve to sit quietly and grieve your friend and watch the world go by without someone making you feel like a burden for it. And I hope that despite everything, somewhere between the stops, you got a few minutes of peace and you thought of your friend and you felt them with you. Because you deserved that more than anyone on that train. To the woman with the bag on the extra seat. The next time you sit in someone else's reserved spot, maybe just move when asked. It really is that simple. My boyfriend's coworker kept holding his hand for minutes and my boyfriend said I was overreacting. 7:17 p.m. She is on a cabin trip with her boyfriend's coworkers. It should be a fun weekend. And instead she is watching a man hold her boyfriend's hand for literal minutes at a time, multiple times in one night, and her boyfriend is telling her she is imagining things. That last part is the part that should make you stop. Because the touching, the hovering, the private conversations, those are things she observed with her own eyes. But being told she is reading too much into it, that is something her boyfriend chose to do. Let us walk through exactly what happened. Our narrator is 26, her boyfriend is also 26, and they are staying in a house with a group of his coworkers for a cabin weekend. She came into this trip wanting to have a good time. She wanted to meet the people her boyfriend spends 40 hours a week around, to laugh with them, to feel included in that part of his life. That is a completely normal thing to want. At first she is not bothered. She meets everyone, things seem fine, one of the coworkers seems perfectly nice. But as the night goes on, as the drinks come out and people settle into the looseness that cabin weekends tend to produce, she starts noticing something that she cannot quite talk herself out of noticing. This coworker keeps gravitating toward her boyfriend. And not in a general friendly group way, the kind where someone just happens to end up near the same person a few times throughout the night. He keeps coming over specifically to dap him up, except the word dap implies something quick, something casual, something that lasts maybe 2 seconds before everyone moves on. What she is describing is hand-holding that lasts for literal minutes. Multiple times throughout the night. He would come over, take her boyfriend's hand, and just stay like that, standing beside him, fingers intertwined or clasped, in no apparent hurry to let go. She is sitting there watching this and doing the mental math that anyone would do, telling herself maybe this is just how they are, maybe this is a friend thing, maybe she is projecting. But the minutes keep passing and the hands stay connected and the math stops adding up. That is already a lot to notice and stay quiet about. But it does not stop there. The coworker is also constantly seeking her boyfriend out specifically. He is standing unusually close to him, close enough that it would register as odd even between people you know well. He is pulling him away for private conversations, leaning in, creating a bubble that does not include anyone else. He is orbiting him in a way that is pointed and deliberate, the way a person moves through a room when there is one specific gravitational center they keep returning to. And our narrator is watching all of this and observing, importantly, that she does not see him behaving this way with anyone else at the gathering. Not even close. The coworker is pleasant enough with the rest of the group, but there is no hand-holding, no pulling aside, no sustained closeness. It is only with her boyfriend. That specificity matters. Look, I am not here to diagnose the situation or put a label on what the coworker's feelings are. But I will say this. What our narrator is describing is not vague. It is specific, it is repeated, and it stands out in the context of the group. She is not reading signals in someone's posture or inferring meaning from a glance. She is watching extended physical contact happen in front of her, over and over again, on a night when she is supposed to be there as her boyfriend's partner. So she does what a reasonable person in a relationship does. She finds a quiet moment, she pulls her boyfriend aside privately, away from the noise and the rest of the group, and she tells him that this behavior is making her uncomfortable. She is choosing the most considerate possible approach. She is not yelling at him in front of everyone. She is not confronting the coworker or creating a scene that would make the rest of the weekend unbearable. She is talking to her own boyfriend quietly and honestly about something that is sitting wrong with her, trusting that he will hear her out. And his response is that the coworker is drunk and that some guys are just like that when they are drunk. That explanation does not hold up. Being drunk might make someone louder, more expressive, more likely to say something they would normally keep to themselves. It does not explain sustained, selective physical contact directed specifically at one person in a room full of people. If the coworker were just drunk and generally affectionate, that energy would be spreading outward. It would touch other people in the group. Our narrator would have seen it. She did not. So the drunk explanation is not really an explanation at all. It is a deflection, offered quickly, designed to close the conversation rather than engage with it. And then the night continues. The coworker keeps doing the exact same things. Nothing changes. The behavior that our narrator flagged as uncomfortable is happening again right in front of her, her concern hanging in the air between her and her boyfriend, unresolved and apparently forgotten. She is stuck in that specific kind of discomfort where you have already said something and it did not land, and now you are watching the thing you said something about happen again, and you have to decide whether to say it twice. So she brings it up again. And this time her boyfriend does not just dismiss it. He becomes defensive. His tone shifts. He tells her the coworker acts this way with everyone, which directly contradicts what she has been watching with her own eyes all evening, and he tells her she is reading too much into it. There it is. That phrase, reading too much into it, is one of the most effective ways to make someone feel like their perception is the problem rather than the situation they are perceiving. It moves the entire conversation off the behavior and onto her reaction to the behavior. It is a quiet but significant reframe. Now instead of talking about what the coworker is doing, they are talking about whether her feelings are valid, whether her observations are trustworthy, whether she is the kind of person who sees things that are not there. That is a pivot that leaves her defending herself instead of being heard, and it happens so smoothly that it can take a moment to even realize it occurred. She makes something very clear in how she tells this story. She was not asking her boyfriend to cut the guy off or make things awkward for the rest of the weekend. She was not demanding he leave the room every time the coworker approached or issue some kind of ultimatum. She just wanted him to acknowledge that what she was seeing looked excessive. That is an extremely low bar. She was asking for the most basic form of validation a partner can offer, which is simply the words "yes, I see it, I understand why that feels like a lot." Not fix it. Not punish anyone. Just acknowledge that what she was seeing was real and that it made sense for her to feel the way she did. And even that was too much to ask for. Her boyfriend eventually says he will talk to the coworker if it continues. But by that point the damage is already done, because she sat there watching him spend more energy defending his coworker's behavior than actually turning toward her. She could feel the difference between a partner who is trying to understand and a partner who is trying to make the conversation end. She was not asking for action. She was asking for understanding. She did not get it. And now they are stuck in this house together with all of his coworkers while an argument is sitting between them like a third person in the room, quiet and heavy and impossible to ignore. Here is where the narrator lands on this one. She is not the asshole. Her feelings are valid, her observations are specific, and her request was genuinely reasonable. She saw something that made her uncomfortable, she communicated it clearly and privately, and she asked for very little in return. Being told you are imagining things by the person who is supposed to be on your side is not a small thing. It is the kind of dismissal that builds resentment over time. What concerns me more than the coworker's behavior is the pattern in how her boyfriend responded. Deflection, then defensiveness, then a conditional offer only after she had already been hurt. That is not a partner who is trying to understand you. That is a partner who is trying to win an argument. And if this is how he handles one uncomfortable conversation on a weekend trip, it is worth asking what that pattern looks like when the stakes are higher. My final word on this is for her directly. You trusted your gut. You used your words. You asked for something that costs nothing to give. The fact that he made you feel like the unreasonable one in this situation is the most important data point of this entire story. Pay attention to that. Not as a reason to blow everything up, but as information about how this person handles your feelings when they conflict with his comfort. That is the question you need to sit with long after this cabin trip is over. So which story hit you harder today, the woman on the train grieving in silence, or the woman at the cabin being told not to trust her own eyes? Drop it in the comments, I genuinely want to know. And if you are new here, a like and a subscribe go a long way.